If your surname is on this list, it's been carrying something you were never told. You're not just European by heritage. Your name may quietly record which church your people knelt in which empire wanted them to stop. A married priest, a revoked edict, an outlawed tartan, a single letter shaved off a name at a dock. Stay until number 1, because that's a name the authorities tried to strip off their own people, letter by letter, and that families spent 300 years putting back. 10 names, 3 faiths, 1 question each family had to answer out loud. Number 10, Papadopoulos. The most common surname in all of Greece, and it means simply son of the priest, which raises a question the West could never answer. How does a priest have a son? In the Latin Church, he doesn't. Celibacy forbids it. But in the Orthodox East, a parish priest could marry and pass his name down. So Papadopoulos is a fossil of the oldest split in Christianity, carried in a single word. Under Ottoman rule, some families watched a clerk swap the Greek ending for a Turkish one and whispered the real one at home. The East kept its priests. Move west, and the same word tore a family in half. Number 9, Popovich. Popescu in Romania, Popov in Bulgaria, all built from pop, the word for priest, all meaning the priest's son. Under centuries of Ottoman rule, the church wasn't only faith, it was the one institution keeping a people's language alive when the state belonged to someone else. But be careful, this name doesn't always point to orthodoxy. Sometimes the priest was Eastern Catholic. Sometimes an ancestor only served in his house. What survived was the claim to an Eastern church that outlasted an empire, and it sailed to America intact. Further north, a church stopped being a building. It became a country a people had to hide. Number 8, Kowalski. It means smith, and that ski ending once marked the land a family belonged to. Then the map erased Poland. Through the partitions of the 1700s, the country vanished between Russia, Prussia, and Austria, and being Catholic became the last way to still be Polish. Russia pushed orthodoxy. In the 1870s, Bismarck's Kulturkampf jailed priests for preaching in Polish and banned the language from schools. It wasn't as total as the legend says, but the parish held the nation when nothing else could. In Chicago and Detroit, they rebuilt that nation as a church on a corner. Some names meant stay and outlast. The next meant something colder, leave, tonight. Number 7, Fontaine. Bosanquet, Lefebvre. Ordinary French names until history turned them into targets. These were the Huguenots, French Protestants, and in October of 1685, Louis XIV signs away every protection they had. Soldiers move into their homes. Conversions are signed at the point of a sword. Leaving is forbidden on pain of prison. And still, as many as 200,000 ran, carrying a word out of France that English didn't have before: refugee. They became silk weavers in London, planters in Carolina, winemakers at the Cape. They fled out of a country. The next name was planted into one. If any of this is landing for you, take 5 seconds and subscribe. Number 1 is the one that's going to stay with you, and the stories from here only get heavier. Number 6, Armstrong, Johnston, Montgomery. In Scotland, just border names. In Ireland, they hint at which side of a line your people arrived on. From 1610, the Crown planted Protestant Scots onto land taken from Gaelic Catholic families. But these Presbyterians were dissenters too, squeezed by the Anglican establishment, and in wave after wave they left for America, the backbone of Appalachia. Here's the honest part: reading a religion off a name like this was real, and for centuries it decided who got a job, a house, a fair hearing. It worked often enough to be dangerous, and often enough to be wrong. You'd think a name always picks a side. The next one refuses. Number 5. Müller, Schmidt. The two most common surnames in Germany, Miller and Smith, and here's where this whole list breaks open. These names can't tell you a thing about faith. After 1555, a rule governed the German lands. Whichever prince ruled your patch of ground chose the religion for everyone on it. Catholic in this valley, Lutheran 10 miles on, and when a ruler changed his mind, the whole village changed church with him. 40 million German Americans carry a name that records a place and a lord, not a belief. A name doesn't decide what you believed. It tells you where your people stood when the question was dangerous. If a map could decide your church, what about the people a map tried to erase? Number 4. Jahier, Guru. Names from a handful of alpine valleys, and from the oldest surviving dissenting church in Europe, followers of a man who began preaching in Lyon around 1170, 3 centuries before Luther. For that, they were hunted. On Easter of 1655, soldiers quartered peacefully in their homes turned, on a signal, and slaughtered them, thousands, though the true number is still argued over. The horror reached England. Milton wrote a poem. Cromwell sent money and threats. The survivors clung to the mountains, then crossed the sea to a town they named Valdez in North Carolina, and colonies in Uruguay. They survived by hiding in the mountains. The next name had nowhere left to hide. Number 3. Vartanian, Avakian. Any name ending in Ian or Jan, descendant of. It marks one of the most ancient Christian churches on earth, the Armenian Apostolic, which broke away in the year 451, older even than the split between Rome and the East. And in 1915, that same small suffix became a death sentence. Ottoman officials read it off lists to mark Armenians for deportation and massacre, as many as 1 million. To live, some shed the name entirely. The survivors scattered to Fresno, Beirut, Paris, and kept the Ian anyway. Today their grandchildren carve it back onto headstones, a name marked for death abroad. The next was outlawed at home. Number 2. MacDonald. Son of Donald, one of the largest names Scotland ever produced. Not every MacDonald was Catholic, the name spans both faiths. But its great branches, Clan Ranald and Keppoch, Glengarry and Glencoe, held the old faith in Scotland's last Catholic corners, the islands and glens of the West. They paid for it. Glencoe, 1692, a massacre by betrayal. Culloden, 1746, and then a ban on the tartan, the pipes, the Gaelic itself. The clearances emptied the glens, because sheep paid better than people. In Catholic, Gaelic Scotland didn't die. It sailed to Cape Breton and was sung there, in the language the Glen had gone silent keeping. And the last name mirrors more of us than any other on this list. Number 1. Murphy. O'Brien. In the old language, O'Murchada, O'Brien, where that O means descendant of, a small proud word that announced a Gaelic Catholic line out loud, which is exactly why it was taken. English administrators stripped the O and the Mac off the records. The penal laws boxed in the faith. Then the famine loaded families onto ships that didn't all reach the far shore. At the dock, a father spells it plainly, Murphy, not O Murhada, because a name that sounded too Irish was one more reason to be turned away from work. He wasn't betraying anything. He was protecting his children, and no clerk at Ellis Island renamed anyone. Those choices were the family's own, which is why, generations later, their descendants began putting the O back, carving the letter into the name a border once shaved off. Somewhere tonight, a young woman types her own last name into a search bar at a kitchen table. The same name a clerk once shortened on a manifest. The same name an official once crossed off a list. And for the first time, 500 years load onto the screen in front of her. Because the real thread through all 10 of these names was never Catholic, or Protestant, or Orthodox. It was a moment, a family standing in the wrong place, at the wrong time, deciding whether to keep the name that gave them away. If your surname is on this list, the people are gone, and the kingdoms are gone, but the name is still here at the bottom of your emails, in your children's mouths. Someone kept it on purpose. So drop your surname in the comments below. Tell me which number felt like your family, and which faith your name was quietly carrying all along. I read them, and someone down there almost certainly shares your name and your story. If this opens something up, subscribe. There's more where this came from.